Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for August 31st through September 6th. This week I read one book, I watched one show, and I listened to two books. Anytime I only have like 4 things to wrap up, I'm like, what happened this week? And it turns out quite a lot happened. I was up island for a board meeting, my partner left for 2 months, my mom had her birthday, and I went on some adventures. I decided that since my partner's adventuring, I would adventure here on my own island, so I'm planning a lot of day trips for Saturdays in particular. But not just limited to Saturdays, because one of the trips I took was definitely on a Tuesday. Anyway, this is not meant to be an advertisement for how gorgeous Vancouver Island is, so let's get into the books. The one book that I finished this week with my eyeballs is Blood Over Bright Haven. I went into this basically knowing nothing about it. It's actually a fall read-along pick over on Pagebound, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to read whatever this popular fantasy book is. Our main character in this one is this woman named Siona. She has been studying for absolute years to be a high mage. What this means in the terms of her society is mages are people that can use these things called spellographs to basically use these spells in order to do things around the city, to improve the city, to make the transit run on time, and those types of things. To become a high mage means to be one of the 100 mages that's basically at the top of the hierarchy of the city, and the big thing about that is there's never been a woman who's been accepted into that before. In fact, the guys think it's so silly to even test them for this that they only test somebody once every decade, and she's that person. She's been working towards this for a very long time, and she is very nervous because if she fails, then it's like a failure for all women. However, at the same time, she knows she's brilliant, so she doesn't understand how she could fail. So it's a very contentious situation. Now, this magic system is really interesting because you've got this thing that's kind of like a typewriter with a big portal on top of it, and you can sort of, while looking through it, figure out where you're sourcing your materials from for your various spells. And using spells in this world is kind of like computer programming. It's very interesting. However, another thing you really need to know about this society is how incredibly racist it is. There's this whole other race of people called the Quen, and they come from outside the city barriers, and there's a lot of them in the city because they've come here for refuge because there's something outside of the city called Blight. Blight basically just kills people left, right, and center out there, so they've come into the city, into the protection, to not be killed by it. And they are treated incredibly poorly, basically subhuman, even in the mind of our protagonist. So I spent a lot of this book just going, I need you to get your head out of your ass, because what even are you thinking right now? Like, these are people, people are people, come on now. And I will say there is character growth throughout this book, but there's not necessarily societal change in that exact aspect. There's definitely some things that happen in this book, for sure, and some of them could be classified as societal change, but not in this specific way. Despite wanting to throw the book against the wall every time somebody was incredibly racist, which the book was trying to do, so I'm not faulting the book for that. You're supposed to feel that badly about what's going on in the book. I really enjoyed this. As for the one show I watched, if you know me, you know what it was. It was Silent Witness, and oh my goodness, the episodes I watched this week, kind of iconic actually. I started at the very end of the 24th season, and then when I got into the 25th season, there weren't 2-episode arcs. There was a 6-episode arc, and it spanned the entire season, which is weird because these seasons are usually 10 episodes. This season was 6 episodes, and it had the return of a character that we haven't seen since season 4. In fact, technically, I think it was 2 characters we haven't seen since season 4, because I think we had met Tom before as well. This was absolutely iconic because if you know this show, it started out being led by this woman named Sam Ryan. She was the pathologist in the show, and then there were a couple of guys with her by the end of her time on the show, and then they carried the show forward, and that's when Nikki Alexander, the current protagonist, came in. So these characters never actually had any crossover until season 25, when Sam Ryan comes back and it looks like she's the big bad of the season. Iconic. I'm now into the 26th season, and between seasons 24, 25, and now 26, we have wildly different people as the kind of 3rd and or 4th person in this cast of characters, which is just a lot because I didn't expect that one guy to only last like 6 episodes, and then the character that we had all the way through the 25th season decided that she was going to go and meet some family members years in Trinidad, and I guess she just never came back because now we have a new guy. And at the end of the first arc of the 26th season, we're gonna get this other guy to kind of replace a role that hasn't been filled for quite some time at the Lyle. At least that's what I assume is going to happen because I'm pretty sure his name is in the credits. I've gotten to the point where it's a very real possibility that this week, possibly next week, I might be up to date with how much is on BritBox because I'm pretty sure there's only up to the end of season 27 and I think 28 is ongoing. And that's gonna be weird. After that, I'm gonna have to go back and check all of the other British TV shows that I've watched, the ones that are ongoing, and see if any new seasons have come up for like Shetland, for example. And then I'm probably gonna have to pick something new, which is gonna be weird because, like I said, I've been in this show since its first season back in 1996. But, you know, only a few months ago when I started watching it. As for the books I listened to this week, the first one is called Love at Second Sight. Our main character in this one is Cam. He's a human and he's just going to this brand new school because the school district was kind of revamped after a new school was built, which means that he's finally going to be able to go to school with his best friend. His best friend is a non-binary witch named Al, and they met, I think, in primary school, but they were separated because of the school bounds. Going to this new school, there's all sorts of different people that go there. Humans, witches, werewolves, sprites, and I guess technically if fairies went to school, they might go to school here, but they tend to homeschool. Oh, importantly, there's another class of people that have their own guild, and that's psychics. That becomes very important because on the very first school day, something happens and he actually has his very first psychic glimpse. At least that's what the nurse says, because he fell down and he hit his head and everything went black and suddenly he was in this field over this dead body holding a knife and going, what is happening right now? He wants to brush this whole possible psychic glimpse thing under the rug because he's human, his parents are very much human, they're very much like, if there's anything paranormal, we don't like it. They absolutely hate that his best friend is a witch. But soon somebody catches on camera him predicting something in the future and that video goes viral, so now his parents know about it, everybody seems to know about it. If he gets 3 things predicted correctly, he is a verified seer and he is highly sought by all the guilds in town. But if he knows he can accurately predict the future, that means what he saw that first time must be real and he's got to solve that mystery. I've really loved everything I've read by F.T. Lukens. Everything is so imaginative, the characters are so interesting, the settings are so interesting, and whatever's going on with whatever magic system is always interesting. And I just really love that this was a big whodunit where it's like, ooh, it has to be this person, and you're like, actually no, it can't be that person because of this reason, but what about this person, and this person is the person that did the thing, and you're just like, what is happening? This has friend breakups and a crush on a guy that he thinks is straight, but is he actually straight? We'll find out. And it's just such good times. This next book I would love to describe as good times because the actual writing of it and the descriptions of particularly scents are very, very intricate and dynamic and interesting. However, you can't exactly call this book good times because it's perfume or the story of a murderer. This is a book translated from German that was published the year before I was born, and it's set in the 1700s in France. This one starts out with a fishmonger giving birth to a child in the middle of a market, and she's just expecting to just leave it to die. However, he cries really loudly and other people realize what's happened, and she actually ends up being put to death because it turns out this would have been the 4th child she would have killed in this manner. As this child is growing up, he's not great with words and concepts, but he's really good at smells. He can tell you what everything smells like. As soon as he learns the name of a smell, he's able to tell you exactly how it mixes with other smells. And although he spends a good chunk of time as a tannery apprentice, he eventually turns his trade to perfume making. The guy that employs him has basically hit the jackpot because our main character, whose name I will never remember, mostly because I was listening to it and I couldn't see how it was spelled, so I didn't drill into my brain. I'm pretty sure his first name is Jean-Pierre or something like that, but I couldn't figure out what his last name was. I want to say Gruyere, but that's a cheese, and I don't think it was that, but it was something close. In any case, his sense of scent is so top-notch that he can smell any perfume and be like, oh yeah, I know exactly what's in that and what proportions and how to make it. And he just does that in front of his perfume master, and the perfume master's like, okay, you're working for me, you're making a bunch of new scents for me, I'm gonna become rich. However, it should definitely be mentioned that he only decided he wanted to work with scents after he found this scent that he was absolutely enraptured by, and it turned out to be this young woman. And in order to kind of own that scent, he just just murdered her. Eventually he goes on to try to figure out how he can distill the scents of women that are really attractive, but before that he spends 7 years just laying in a cave thinking about scents, and I'm just like, what even is this book? What are we doing here? And although that's one of the most unbelievable things that happens in this book, there's definitely more things at the end of the book where I'm just like, what? So although this book is beautifully written and the descriptions are very intricate, I hesitate to say it's a good book because what even the hell? Just because he doesn't have his own scent, which is a whole big thing that he gets into, especially when he's in that cave for 7 years, doesn't mean that he can just get the scents of other people. Except for that's exactly what he does, because he feels entitled to do that, and then he uses those scents at the end of the book for a very strange purpose. So if you've ever read this book, please tell me about your experience of doing so down in the comments below. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down in the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you happen to be on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that, as always, is down below. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!